I think this is some Roman teaching. Love conquers all. Is it true that love conquers all? The answer is no. It's actually not correct that love conquers all. Here's a very powerful lesson some of you may be familiar with. We're going to get back to that in a second, which is a story with Rabbi Akiva. So some of you know the story with Rabbi Akiva and the students. This is a reminder that love doesn't conquer all. Love can actually be destructive. I know that ruins a lot of songs from the 60s. You'll excuse me, but it's love doesn't fix all problems at all. In fact, love can be the problem sometimes. If you look at page 99, we have a quote from the Talmud in text 2a. Rabbi Akiva had 12,000 pairs of students. That's a lot of students, 24,000 students. They did not behave toward each other with respect. Now, what do you understand from this piece of Talmud? They do not, again, the language is, they did not behave toward each other with respect. Well, how did they behave toward each other? Well, they didn't behave toward each other with respect, but they did behave toward each other with love. In fact, Rabbi Akiva is famous for one of the most famous teachings that is known beyond just the Jewish world, and that is this verse, love your neighbor as yourself. This is the Torah's major principle, right? Some people call it the golden rule, right? Some people call it the golden rule. That's Rabbi Akiva's teaching. So guess what? His students mastered that teaching very well, and they embodied it, and they loved their fellow students tremendously. And guess what? That became the problem. That became the problem. How does love become a problem? Love becomes a problem because when one person loves another person but doesn't respect the other person, then love in and of itself is like a bulldozer. It's where someone else comes and just completely smothers the other person with love. And you know what happens when someone smothers you? Even though it's love, but if you're getting smothered, you can't breathe. Because love is me embracing you. But when I embrace you so heavily, my presence overwhelms you. And because I am not giving you respect to be who you are, I smother your individuality. That's what love does to a person. Respect is the exact opposite. Respect is where I give space for you. I don't smother you. Now, both of them together create a magical blend. And our entire life, like an airplane flying, we try and stay on course the whole time. We're trying to balance between these two. But there's got to be a balance between the two. And every single person is inclined by nature either towards being a more respectful person or a more loving person. And whichever one you lean towards, you need to compensate with the other more to create a balanced relationship. And the more important of the two as a foundation for a relationship, ironically, to many people it would be ironic, is respect. A relationship with only love is not sustainable. Not sustainable. There are unfortunately many relationships that have fallen apart because of a dominance of love with a little respect. However, if you have respect, at least each person can be present because they're both being respected so they can be themselves. And now they need to introduce love. I'm not saying a relationship of respect without love is good, but it can manage, and hopefully love will be introduced, because the bedrock of any relationship is respect. Otherwise, you don't have two people in the relationship. And if you don't have two people in the relationship, you're clearly not relating. So that's the reason why respect is so critical. And this was the big mistake made by Rabbi Akiva's students. So let's understand this a little bit better. Okay. And we're going to do this by reading text 2b, which is on page 101. Our sages note that each human mind varies from all others. This was also the case with the 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva. They all grasped their master's teachings according to their individual paths and understandings. each assuming that their own interpretation was the true meaning of Rabbi Akiva's words. Of course, as normal people, they all understood it their way, and they believed that was the right way. When they realized that their colleagues understood their master's words differently, in a manner that they regarded as incorrect, they became disinclined to treat the others with esteem. They didn't have respect for their opinion about what their teacher meant. Meaning, I leave no room and space for you and your position. Specifically because of the fundamental teaching of Rabbi Akiva, love your neighbor as yourself, this is the Torah's major principle. Why? Without this mandate, they might not have cared so much if a colleague failed to grasp what they considered to be the true meaning of their master's Torah. However, since their teacher, Rabbi Akiva, taught them about the importance of fulfilling the commandment to love your neighbor as yourself, they were taught always love the other person, which remains true, by the way. It's a critical, fundamental teaching of the Torah. Each student endeavored to influence all those included in the definition of neighbor, especially their fellow students. So they said, boy, am I going to love you. I'm going to smother you with the truth, with enlightenment of how I understand rightly the teaching of our master. So they would similarly grasp it, so that their friend, would similarly grasp their master's Torah in the true way. They could not respect a colleague who did not accept this true way, at least not to the extent expected of Rabbi Akiva's students. So what happened was, because they were consumed with loving the other person, which means showering upon them, as opposed to respecting the other person, which means stepping back and making space for them, instead of giving space for them and their perspective on what the teacher meant, Rabbi Akiva meant, they said, I'm going to enlighten you. You know how that is when someone is this, they're not leaving the Thanksgiving dinner table until you understand that they are right and you are wrong. That always works out wonderfully, doesn't it? Right? So that's actually how they were. That was the issue that was going on. Love is blind and has no boundaries, unless it's tempered by respect, because that's what respect is. Respect is boundaries. Respect is boundaries. It's making space for another person. It's saying, I'm going to stop here and let them speak, let them share their idea, etc. So respect is the key for appropriate love. Respect another person's view. Respect another person's view, even if it's wrong. Right? It may be wrong. It may even be wrong. But you can still respect that that's where they're at in their understanding of things at this point. So love is not, the myth here is that love conquers all, and that is simply not correct. Love conquers agree to disagree, which is appropriate, or it can be changed the beloved's mind, and that is a lack of respect. Changing the other person's mind is simply a lack of respect. Love drives us close to a person, but respect leaves room for them. And each person was created unique in God's creation. Every single person is a unique person. And so the Hebrew word for this is kavod. Kavod means honor or respect. Respect, honor, or reverence. The way you respect, honor, or revere another person is by honoring who they are, respecting who they are, revering that this is who they are. So we have kavod and love together. Love and respect are both crucial for relationships. You must have both in order for the relationships to work.